It's just tough because you have to improve the team. But it's just, how do you get there? We've got the taxpayer mid-level. I mean, what's that going to get us? Bruce Brown? Like, that's what we're looking at right now. I mean, we're lucky Giannis wants to stay. I just don't know what moves out there for us. Probably just going to bring Gary Trent Jr. back. That's just kind of going to be it, I guess. You know? Yeah, I mean, we need a guard so bad. But it's just, there's not a lot out there. It's slim pickings, man. Slim pickings. Slim chickens? It's pretty good. I like it better than Canes, at the very least. No, slim pickings. We're talking about free agency. Oh, yeah? Hey, look, I get it. We need a center so bad. I actually saw on Instagram that we might get Jokic this year. What? Something like Rui and Gabe Vincent or something like that? Where the fuck did you hear that? Huh? It was something like Lake Show 24/8 or something. Okay, well, I can tell you right now that's not happening. All right, hey, you say so. Hey, maybe we'll get Lively. Maybe we'll go after Lively this year. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's possible, I guess. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. We also need a wing. Giannis demands a trade. I'm sure Rob would be all over that. Easily. I don't know if I'd give up Reeves, though, as a thing in that trade. Oh, you don't know if you'll include Austin Reeves? Oh, yeah, I'm just not sure. I guess we don't have a deal then. Oh, well, what are you going to do? No, yeah. That sucks. All right, well, I'm going to scoot on out of here. You guys have a good rest of your day, okay? All right. Yeah. Scoot on out of here. All right. Dude, what the hell was that? That was embarrassing. Dude, are you not going to stand up for yourself at all? What do you want me to say? Huh? Oh, we're the Lakers. We might just take your best player. Yeah, they fucking might. They just might do it. What do you want me to say? All right. Settle down, okay? Settle down. I get it. Sorry. We're looking at D'Angelo Russell, $5 million. Okay. Interesting. That's not the worst. Interesting. No, it's what I'm saying. It's not the worst. It's really not the worst. Hey, folks. It's a little late. It's a little last minute to do this. A ramble session about the upcoming NBA free agency, which I will be live for. So make sure you guys are here for that. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys leave a comment. Okay. All right. Make sure you guys do all those things. Leave this comment. Leave this. The Lakers stole my wife. All right. We're going to get into this. Just going to do some free agency predictions. I just like doing this, and I know it's last minute, but I like doing this because it's fun to look back on. It's fun to see what I got right and what I got wrong. We've already seen some big deals, and probably the biggest player that will be traded or change teams has already been traded or changed teams in the form of Kevin Durant. So we'll see, right? But there's still a lot that can happen, and there's some new interesting stuff that I can't wait to talk about, and I cannot wait to get into. So we've got... we got a PowerPoint. We've got that 2025 free agency again, guys, I'm preferring to go by the currently. That's it. Just that would be great. Thank you. Let's get right into it. Let's start with Clint Capela. He's one of the more interesting, I promise. I kind of just randomized it, but we've got big names, we've got little names, we've got all the names listed in here. I want to start with Clint Capela because he's an interesting one. I definitely think the Lakers feel like an obvious choice. I do think he's going to leave Atlanta. Really, any team that needs some type of center help would love to bring in a guy like Clint Capela, which I guess will probably be the taxpayer mid-level around $5 million. So that could be a team like Denver who's looking for somebody reliable to back up Jokic. Think about a team like maybe even, I don't know, how about the Lakers? We've already mentioned them. If a team like the Knicks is looking for a backup center, this is somebody that they could look for with their cap space at their disposal, or the cap tools they have at their disposal. I do think he's washed, is the thing. I think Clint Capela is completely washed. I think it'd be bad. If this is the Lakers stopgap option, I think that's fucking laughable. I think he's completely and totally washed. His hands were always bad. They've looked worse. He's just not as explosive as an athlete anymore, so he finishes below the rim a lot more now, and his rim finishing numbers last year were daunting. They were scary. Okay. My prediction, though, is the Pelicans. That's kind of where I've ended up. I don't know. If Clint Capela signed 1 minute into free agency with the Lakers or something, that wouldn't surprise me that much. But I could see this one kind of dragging out for him while teams weigh other options, and then Capela's just kind of there. And the Pelicans, yes, they have Yves Missy. Yes, they traded for Derek Queen. I still think they're looking for a backup center option. And I mocked Clint Capela to the Pelicans, I think 2 consecutive off seasons. Let's make it a third. Clint Capela finally makes his way to the New Orleans Pelicans. I could see this being an option for them as they look for center help. Myles Turner, I have just staying in Indiana. I don't see, it's funny because Myles Turner's entering free agency, and this feels like the least he's ever talked about being on the move. Like, he's been under contract for 10 years, and every single year it's like Myles Turner's getting traded this time, and now he's a free agent and can go anywhere. And it's just like, he's not going anywhere. And why would the Pacers do it? I've seen people say his finals performance, his shot was just cooked in the finals, and because of that, Indy should move on. What? What other option do they have? Thomas Bryant, is he going to fill in and be the starting center? Are they going to bring back Tony Bradley? Like Isaiah Jackson, is he coming back? Are they going to bring back Bagley off that, or James Wiseman? Like, I don't know what they've got going on, but it's bringing back Myles Turner. Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what that contract looks like. It'll be interesting to see. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is one of the most interesting players in free agency, right? This sort of dirty work guard who can guard up and guard wings, who's taken real leaps offensively, just a fantastic role player, a guy who could start on certain teams and a guy who also could come off the bench as well. And I do think he'll have a huge market. In fact, I think the market will be so big that it'll actually price teams out, and he'll probably go for above the taxpayer or the just standard mid-level, which is $14 million. The Pistons have been a name that's been brought up. The Lakers have been brought up a ton. It does sound like it's all but confirmed that he is leaving Minnesota. I've seen Orlando mixed in there. But the team that's been talked about a lot recently, and I believe there was a report from our guy Grant Afseth, and I told you guys Grant Afseth was going to move on to bigger and better things, and I'm happy that he is, that the Atlanta Hawks are the favorites, and it makes all the sense in the world. They have a $22 million traded player exception that they could absorb Nickeil Alexander-Walker into via a sign and trade. Just makes all the fucking sense in the world. It's all right in front of us. Now, the Malik Beasley situation has complicated things because that might give the Pistons some more money to work with. But I do think he ultimately lands with the Atlanta Hawks. And, folks, I think the Atlanta Hawks are cooking up something. I really do think they're building a really, really impressive team. And I wouldn't be all that surprised if they end up making a finals run or something next year, or a conference finals run at the very least. I mean, why would I be surprised in the Eastern Conference? Nickeil Alexander-Walker will be 27 years old when he at the start of next season. So it's not like you're getting an old dude. You're getting an ascending player who's touching his prime and has already proven that he can be a very reliable role guy. Now, the Hawks do need some wings, but, this is just their option. Caris LeVert now looks good for Atlanta. I like, Atlanta does either need to bring Caris LeVert back or bring in somebody they feel can run their second unit a little bit. Obviously, I wish Kobe Buffkin would blossom into that, but that feels like a pipe dream. I'm just not sure, that's not really Nickeil Alexander-Walker's game necessarily. Neither is it Dyson Daniels. So I like the idea of them bringing Caris LeVert back. Now, Grant Afseth did say that the Hawks were favorites for Nickeil Alexander-Walker and that the Pistons were a team to watch for Caris LeVert. That would be interesting, assuming the Pistons lose out on Dennis Schroder. I do think the Hawks bring him back. Now, this is where it gets interesting because if Atlanta were to get Nickeil Alexander-Walker and try to bring back Caris LeVert, they'd be brushing right up against the tax. And history shows us they're not a team that's all of that willing to do that. So I'm not sure they would go into the tax for a move like this. But if there was a way they could maneuver these moves to where they're still below it, I think this makes all the sense in the world, him just staying in Atlanta. But it'd be really interesting to see what his market is outside of that, whether that's a team that has cap or whether that's a team that absorbs him via a sign and trade. There was once upon a time I thought about the Dallas Mavericks as a potential Caris LeVert spot. But it just, I don't know, with the money and stuff. I don't know if it makes all that much sense. Speak of the devil, Malik Beasley. The chance he ends up in prison. No, I'm just kidding. No way he ends up in prison. But he is in some deep shit here. He's in some deep shit for allegedly gambling on prop bets in games. So the NBA is investigating this, which does put his contract situation in an interesting spot. There were reports that the Pistons were getting ready to load up and pay him. I believe I saw, what was it, 3 years, $70 million? Isn't that the number that they were about to get? 3 years, $70 million? Did I misread that? Okay, 3 year 42. All right, I was thinking in my head, I was like, 3 years, 70. God damn, there's no way that's right. 3 year, $42 million is what the Pistons were about to hand him, and now this is going on. We saw a similar thing happen with Rozier, and it just kind of came and went. Right? Terry Rozier didn't get in any trouble for that, but we have seen this turn into lifetime bans in the form of Jonte Porter. So we'll see. If I had to bet, no pun intended, right? If I had to bet, by the way, this shit's so funny to me, man. NBA just, the selling the soul for sports gambling has just been disgusting to me, to say the least. But I bet he just ends up back on the Pistons, and maybe they get him at a discounted rate. Like maybe this all works out in its own weird way, and he's able to stay here in Detroit. Dennis Schroder, speaking of a Detroit Piston who's going to be on the move, I wanted to point this out, this number, Dennis Schroder's isolation numbers over the years. He's always been one of the better ones in the league, and last year he was very, very good in isolation, and he looked really good for the Pistons and looked really good in the playoffs at times as well. Now, I'm not really all that sure why the reporting on this is like Dennis Schroder's leaving the Pistons, but that seems to be the case. They've got faith in Ivy, and maybe that's just for the better, right? You get your young guy some reps. He looked really good before he got hurt last year. But for them, I don't really see the problem in bringing Schroder back. But it does sound like Schroder's headed elsewhere, and by all reports, Stein has reported this, the Kings are getting ready to offer him a full mid-level extension or exception type of deal, around $14 million a year. He'll start there. This just seems like an obvious fit, right? I think Schroder will just go where a team pays him the most, and the Kings, they're desperate. This makes all the sense in the world. Now, I would love for his market to not be that robust and him to be a tax mid-level guy. We're talking about $5 million, and a team like Dallas could swoop in on that shit. But I don't think that's going to be the case, unfortunately. So I think I have him landing in Sacramento. Dorian Finney-Smith, he's leaving Lakerland. I'm hopeful by the time this comes out, there haven't been any reports. I'm 100% confident. I don't want to say 100% confident. I'm very confident he's probably either A, leaving LA, or he's doing a massive leverage play right now. But it does sound like he's leaving Los Angeles, and it does kind of sound like Los Angeles is just not all that interested in the years. Now, full disclosure, I've talked before about percentage sources, like, a 10% source told me this. I'm only like 10% confident in it. Somebody told me something about Dorian and the Warriors before it came out that Dorian was probably going to leave the Lakers. I don't know how the fuck that would really be possible necessarily, but I do think there's a ton of teams that will be interested in him, especially around that mid-level area. I think a team like Atlanta, right? Atlanta needs wings. Okay, I mocked them, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but they need wings, and they need some size like this. So this would make a ton of sense for a team like Atlanta. But I think pretty much every team with the means of going about this would do it. We've heard Houston's name just get brought up recently by Jeff Fisher. Jake Fisher. Jeff Fisher is a coach of the Tennessee Titans, wasn't he? Jake Fisher. My prediction was the Pistons. So my scenario, they lost out on Nickeil Alexander-Walker. The Beasley situation in flux, and I think that's something that gets sorted out over time, right? But in the meantime, they might try to replace that a little bit. And look, Dodo's not the shooter that Malik Beasley is. That goes without being said. But I do really like his fit in Detroit. Again, just something with some size, because you're going to have Ivy coming back. You're hopefully going to have Beasley coming back. Getting some more depth on the wings would really go a long way, and he fits their identity a ton. Now, I don't know. I haven't seen them linked to Dorian Finney-Smith at all, but they'd have the means to make it happen, and I would like it quite a bit for them, especially, you're a younger team that, had a great year last year, had a really competitive series with the Knicks. And some of the problems you had in that game, I don't know, and in that series, especially late, I don't know if Dorian Finney-Smith is necessarily helping you solve, but I do just like getting some experience in there and a guy who's been through wars himself. So I would like this move for the Pistons. Again, I don't know how accurate it is. We're just having fun here, right? And there's always some moves that you don't really expect in teams that are lurking in the shadows. Speaking of lurking in the shadows, LeBron James. I have no idea what to make of this whole scenario. He opted in to his player option, $52.5 million. I've seen Lakers fans upset, saying, why the fuck didn't he take a minimum? You really expected Luka Doncic, LeBron James to take a minimum? That was never happening. Maybe a pay cut of some sort, but a minimum? Are we serious? And then I saw people are like, Kobe would have done it. Dude, owners, and this is something that's funny about the Mavs, is their ownership is horrible right now. Deplorable even. No two ways around that. Cuban was on one back in the day. So I'm kind of accustomed to this, although it's different. Cuban called for Kobe's contract to get amnestied. That's how bad his contracts were later in his career. But this one's so interesting to me, and I'm going to cop out a little bit here, and I'm going the Shield. I'm going the field. I don't know who it could be. I kind of think LeBron's done in LA. I don't know, man. These reports that came out today, and then specifically this part of the statement here from Rich Paul, he knows the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that, but he values a realistic chance of winning it all. We are very appreciative, and this is the part right here. We are very appreciative of the partnership that we've had for 8 years with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka, and consider the Lakers as a critical part of his career. Dude, that sounds like a goodbye. Like that part right there, like, yeah, hey man, we've had a great eight years. Like, I don't think you say that if this isn't a soft launch, which is what I think this is. I think this is a soft launch. I think this is like a, hey, just letting you guys know, just want you guys to get prepared, put your diapers on. Like, we're exploring our options here, and we're probably going to ask out. So my feeling is telling me that he probably will. Now, what does that look like? I don't know. There's been that hilarious ass Karl Anthony Towns for LeBron straight up trade. That's fucking hilarious to me. That would be a lot of fun. How about this one? Isaiah Hartenstein, Isaiah Joe, and Aaron Wiggins. All my Thunder friends told me to fuck off after I suggested that, but that would be hilarious though. That would be ring chasing to finish out your career. Back to Cleveland. The only really way that makes sense, because Cleveland has to get under the second apron in a deal like that, is them including Darius Garland and Jared Allen on top of another contract in that trade. And that feels so steep to me for 1 year, maybe 2 years of LeBron James. Now, maybe there's some scenarios where like they're getting picks in return there, because I don't know, trading 2 younger all-stars for LeBron, who's 41 in December, doesn't make too much sense to me. But I do think there's some real legitimate smoke there, so I don't know what to tell you there. And maybe they're just done with Allen and Garland. Hey, there were reports that there was some like, it didn't go anywhere, and the Cavs were the ones who ultimately put the kibosh on it, but that there was like Garland and for KD talks. So I don't know. But if I just had to guess right now, I'd guess the field. Now, this is probably going to make me look stupid, and I did have the Lakers on here up until last minute. But what's the leverage play here? You know, he's already opted into the $52.5 million. This isn't like hey, if you guys don't do this, I won't take a discount if you guys don't have anything. Like, he's already not taking the discount. He's already opted in. There's not like an extension. This just feels like, I don't know. That felt like a goodbye. That didn't feel like a leverage play to me. So this is really interesting. And that leads me to Luka. I don't think Luka's going anywhere. I mean, that would be the second most shocking trade. The second most shocking Luka Doncic trade of the last 6 months. I don't think Luka's going anywhere. But I'm telling you right now, unless the Lakers and Rob Pelinka pull something out of his ass yet again, there's no way I'm signing an extension. There is no chance in hell am I signing an extension this August, whenever it's eligible. Now, I think he probably ends up doing it, right? Because in today's NBA, you could always just sign the extension and demand a trade later. But unless I'm mistaken, ever since the Mavs traded him, that didn't make him eligible for that like super duper max, because it had to be with the Mavericks. And now he's with the Lakers. From what I understand, and I could be wrong here, signing the contract in August versus just doing it next year doesn't really make much of a difference financially for him. At least not like a huge ginormous difference. So for me, it's just like, why am I tying myself to LA if I'm looking at this situation? Hey, maybe LeBron's out, or maybe LeBron said this is it, and we're just kind of like along the margins trying to upgrade the center spot. And I'm looking around, and Dorian's gone, and we're gonna have to pay Reeves $30+ million next summer. Just got to be a little realistic about our situation here. You know, that's just what I would say. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying like, let's demand a trade and not go to let's leave LA. But I'm not signing. I'll give myself that flexibility in the summer if I think this situation is bad. And it's fucked up that this is what Luka what this has become for Luka. It's really fucked up for him. I feel terribly for him. But if I'm his agent, that's what I'm telling him. I'm just telling him, like, why are we extending here? I get that you might want to, but let's just give ourselves that optionality. Let's give ourselves the potential to have the ability if things really hit the fan here, okay? So I just wanted to include him for that reason. Walker Kessler, speaking of the Lakers, this guy's been attached to the Lakers forever. Now, I did perk up a tiny bit at this trade that happened earlier today. It's funny because I had Colin Sexton in here and I had to remove him. I had Colin Sexton going to the Hawks. So anyways, Colin Sexton gets traded to the Hornets for Yusuf Nurkic. And it's such a bizarre trade because the Jazz gave up a second-round pick in it. It just goes to show. Look around the league. Simon's dumped, basically. Colin Sexton traded. What was the other guard recently? There was another one, but I'm blanking on it right now. These small guards, man, the NBA just doesn't give a shit about them whatsoever. The jig is up with these guys. with these smaller guards who might put up some flashy numbers offensively, but in reality are horrible defensively. And Sexton competes for his size, but he's just so small that he's just not a good defender. The jig is up on these guys. But this did make me perk up a little bit with Walker Kessler to bring in another big, right? I'm assuming we have John Collins in here. John Collins will probably get traded, right? I'm assuming Walker Kessler's safe, but it did make me perk up. It did make me perk up. Like if the Lakers get so desperate that they're offering multiple picks and they're ready to go there, I don't know. It could be interesting. I'm monitoring it. I also don't think Lowry's getting traded either. I think we would have heard something about that. His salary's just so much. Like I feel like with these huge, ginormous contract guys, if they were to get traded, I think we'd at least hear some smoke, especially at this point. So John Collins, another Jazz. I have him going to the Clippers. I don't know how we'd get in there with the contracts and stuff like that with some of these trades. I do know that this is possible, and this is something I've seen floated around out there. I do like the fit. I really, really like the fit next to a guy like Harden. Just get another athlete for this team that's just kind of built around athletes at this point. The shooting stuff I wish were better. But I don't think this would cost an arm and a leg for them. And I would like the trade quite a bit. I think he fits in pretty well there. And again, it's an expiring deal, and that could bode well for the Clippers moving forward. And Harden, who just signed a very team-friendly contract extension today. So I think John Collins, it's hard to really kind of gauge his trade market, what teams would be interested. Off the top of my head, I think of teams that just need size really anywhere. I think a team like, a reunion in Atlanta could make sense. I think a team like Detroit makes some sense. I think a team like Cleveland would love to have him, but I don't think they could really make that happen. I think a team like Miami would love to have John Collins, and Miami was a team I really considered. But I ultimately landed with the Clippers because this kind of feels like a move they would make, right? Nothing too expensive, nothing too crazy. You have to get there contractually. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I really didn't nap out how that was possible. But you have to get there contractually. But he kind of just fits what they've got going on. And again, it's a move that you're not breaking the bank for, but it makes you a better team. And we've seen the Clippers do that over the last couple of years with their limited assets. Chris Paul, CP3. The Clippers and Suns are reportedly considering a reunion with Chris Paul. So the Suns part is interesting to me, right? Because I could see scenarios where he starts on their team. So the Suns part is intriguing. I think that's possible. I think that's, interesting. He does want to play close to LA. Like that much has been reported a million times. I do think the Mavs are just a match made in heaven in a lot of ways. And I think if this were a few years ago or something, it could have been hammered out. But, with this probably being Chris Paul's last year, 40 years old, wanting to be close to LA, makes all the sense in the world. And made me think, the verbiage of it being close to LA, not necessarily being in LA, was interesting to me because it did open up the possibility of like Golden State, although I don't think we'd see a reunion there. Sacramento, if anything is a leverage play because they've got that full mid-level and they are desperate. So maybe a leverage play there. I ended up going with the Clippers. Like, what the fuck? It'd be fun. I don't know really what the playing time situation would look like. Obviously, Chris Paul would be coming off the bench in this scenario. But why not? Why not a reunion? We sort of make right. Chris Paul ends his career where he spent the most years. Does that sound right? I'm about to look that up. Did Chris Paul spend the most years with the Clippers or was it with New Orleans? 6 years with New Orleans, 6 years with the Clippers. Played more games with New Orleans, but obviously played the most playoff games of his career with the Clippers. 53. How about that? And this could be one last, this team could be competitive. It's not like he'd just be like going to the Spurs essentially like he did last year, a team that's just out of it entirely. I did find it interesting. There was reports today that the Hornets were interested before they realized that it's probably not going to happen. But I did find that interesting. I still think there are probably these younger teams that need some veteran leadership that would throw more of a bag at Chris Paul. But at this point, I think it'll probably be a minimum on the Lakers or the Clippers. But I think the Lakers, I think you might look at what's going on there and just be like, I don't know about that. Harden, I had him in here. This was before the contract extension was announced, but Harden did sign with the Clippers today. Not that we were expecting anything different. What was the exact number again? Harden was 2 years, $81 million. So congratulations, James Harden. Congratulations, Los Angeles Clippers. A great year last year. Great year last year. Deandre Ayton. So with clinging with the Blazers. Young and handsome. Now there as well. I mean, they drafted him 16th overall. It's not like they drafted him in the second round. Like, he's going to have some... They're going to want him out there his rookie season, I would imagine. It does feel like Ayton's the odd man out. He's on the last year of his deal. The number's not the prettiest thing in the world, but I think it's tradable enough that if a team were desperate for a big, they could talk themselves into putting some salaries together. Now, another thing is like, I think the Trailblazers are trying to be good, so I don't think you could just dump shit contracts on them. Like, they're probably going to want something. I really thought about the Lakers. It makes a ton of sense to me, man. It just does. I know it's gross. The problem is you'd have to include Rui in this trade, and I don't know how, motivated they are for something like that. But I don't mind it as your stopgap option. I think it has a higher upside for you to remain competitive than just having like Clint Capela be your stopgap. Because I still think Ayton's a stupidly frustrating player. I've been out on him for years upon years upon years. But there is still flashes there. And yeah, I could blink and close my eyes and see Luka Ayton pick and roll duo being like one of the most efficient plays in the NBA. So I think you could do worse if you're the Lakers, but I ultimately went the Hornets. Like, I'm kind of reading the writing on the wall in Charlotte. They've traded away Nick Richards, right? Nick Richards is not very good. I don't have him on here, just a spoiler alert. Nick Richards is not a good basketball player. They traded away Mark Williams to the Suns. The Suns just have the Suns have the Charlotte Hornets' entire front court, so there you go. Today they traded away Yusuf Nurkic. I'm looking at their situation. I'm saying, okay, so what's the plan exactly? They drafted Kalkbrenner in the second round. All right, so a second round rookie is going to get 48 minutes a night. Obviously not. They have Musa Diabate. That's interesting. Who else do they have under their on their roster right now? Am I missing somebody? But basically what I'm trying to say is, not that I think Charlotte is like trying to be competitive or anything like that this year, but Taj Gibson is back, right? So they're going to fucking run Taj Gibson out there, Taj Gibson and Musa. Like, I think they're going to try and do something at the center position. Their name is linked to Luke Cornet, which is interesting. Could the Hornets be one of these teams that just like stupidly overpays for like a veteran free agent? We see this every single year. There's always a team that does this, and they're the team, and they do it with Luke Cornet. That could be possible. We'll get to Luke Cornet here in a bit. But why not Ayton? Salary-wise, I don't know what you'd have to do to get there. And again, I'm not sure if the Hornets have like the salaries to like make the Blazers really think about this. But why not? Why not? Again, pick and roll with LaMelo and Ayton. That's a little interesting. With Con Knipple on the wing, catch and shoot. All right. Al Horford, I went with the Knicks. I really kind of struggled with Al Horford. I don't know if the Celtics are going to bring back both him and Cornet. And if they had to choose, well, I'm interested. I want to hear y'all's opinion on this. If the Celtics had to choose between one of Horford and Cornet, which one do you think they would? They should choose Cornet, right? Horford, he's really important for what they do, but realistically speaking, I don't know how competitive you're going to be this year, right? And, 2 years from now, are you really going to be banking on Horford versus like you could realistically still have Cornet 2 years from now and he'd be a very important piece of your rotation. So I could see them just kind of pass on the opportunity to bring Horford back, which does raise another question for me. Like, is Horford all that motivated to like go play elsewhere? The last time we saw it, and he's 39 years old. The last time that we saw it was him in Philly, and it was ugly. It wasn't good. I do think, I want to hear y'all's opinion on this too. I do think he's around a taxpayer mid-level guy, around $5 million. I'd be pretty surprised if he gets more than that. And I think the Knicks are a great fit, and he goes somewhere that can be where they're competing for a championship. But again, it was hard for me to really get a read on the Al Horford stuff. Cornet, I think, is staying. I had Cornet going elsewhere for the longest time, but by all accounts, the Celtics sound really motivated to bring him back, even if that means flipping Anthony Simons. That's something that that's something that was reported yesterday, but somebody gave me that little whisper a few days ago. I got little whispers now, guys, by the way. I got little whispers. Which is what I'll say. Like, the LeBron stuff is what I'll say. I don't know. That shit sounds... Something sounds fishy there. So something fishy going on. But the Cornet stuff, if that means trading Hauser somewhere, I think they want to bring Cornet back. And I think they should. He's really, really important for them. And especially with KP gone now, like, let's solidify our center position and get someone who was one of the best backup bigs in the league last year, and Luke Cornet. Bring him back on a decent deal, right? Nothing insane. Don't break the bank, but a deal you feel comfortable with. If that means flipping a guy, then so what? I think they're just motivated. Look out, like the Hornets. Again, I could see them overpaying for Luke Cornet. The Spurs, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the Spurs are reportedly interested. That makes a ton of sense. And I don't think he's someone who will sign $5 million somewhere. Right? I think it's back to the Celtics, or a team has grossly overpaid for him, is what I'm imagining happens. But I'm going to say back to the Celtics. Claxton. If there was a Lakers trade there, I think it would have happened already. That's just kind of where I'm at with Claxton. If a Lakers trade existed, it would have happened. I think it would have happened after the Mark Williams trade fell through. So that's kind of where I'm at with it and why I have him going back to Brooklyn. Could 100% see him getting traded. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, bet he's on Brooklyn next year or bet the field. I'd probably maybe take the field. But I don't think Brooklyn's in like any hurry or rush to blow things up. In fact, I don't even think I have Cam Johnson on here. I don't. I was kind of in a rush to get this out, and Cam Johnson just kind of slipped through the cracks. But I couldn't. Again, I would take the field with Cam Johnson. I think he probably gets traded, but I could not figure out where. In my brain, I want him to go to the Thunder. I want the Thunder to just be like, fuck it. You know, we'll just lock in a championship next year, and then probably the year after that. But let's just go get Cam Johnson. But I do not think they would do that. I don't think the Thunder would do that at all. Although I think they probably should do something like that. But they won't. I think Claxton ends up staying. Because, again, I think a Lakers trade would have happened already. I don't know what the holdup would be, you know, personally. Brook Lopez. Interesting. If you've watched any of the Bucks at all this past year, you know, Brook Lopez is basically moving with cement shoes at this point of his career. He's so slow-footed. Still a decent rim protector. Will still block some shots, but it's just so slow. Still shoot the three. You know, there's still some value there. I think his fit in San Antonio makes a ton of sense to me. San Antonio's looking for a big, right? They're linked to Cornet. They were linked to Brook Lopez a couple years ago when Wemby was a free agent, I remember. And they just kind of get it done this time around, right? Just a backup big. It makes a lot of sense to me. Somebody to play alongside Wemby. You know, those two could play together even. Makes a lot of sense to me. I think he fits on this team. And also that sort of veteran leadership. You know, they brought in Chris Paul for that reason. Chris Paul's probably headed elsewhere. Almost certainly headed elsewhere. Now Brook Lopez can come in and sort of fit that role. I like it. We're going to kind of speed through. Kuminga. Who the fuck knows, man? Who knows? Kuminga is one of the hardest players to pin down. I don't know, like, Miami, all the national reports are saying that it's the Heat. Every single local Miami beat reporter that I've seen has downplayed the shit out of it. I said that there hasn't been like real interest yet. Chicago does not seem interested whatsoever. Brooklyn, maybe they just go with the cap space. I'm not sure. But damn, man, I couldn't think of anything. I have no clue what the fuck his market's going to be. I would not want my team paying $30 million for Jonathan Kuminga. I'm going to be honest with you, like even 25, unless I'm a team that's just, unless I'm a team like Brooklyn, it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if 3 years from now, you know, I'm like, oh, Jonathan Kuminga, like it doesn't really matter. I can take the risk. I just don't even know if I'd want to go $25 million. Like, I don't know what realistically I'm expecting from Jonathan Kuminga at this point. And I think maybe he either A, takes the qualifying offer and is back at $6 million, or him and Golden State just kind of hammer out a deal and it's like, hey, just give us some time. We will trade you. Like, let's just sign the deal and we will trade you. Hopefully by the deadline or something. But they did that whole fucking song and dance last year, basically. I don't know. He's one of the toughest players to figure out. It just does not seem like there's a market for him at all. Santi Aldama, it does sound like there's a market for. I saw a report today that there's already been teams offering full mid-levels at Santi Aldama. I'd have to imagine Memphis is going to match any of those unless there's like a Godfather type of deal. Unless there is a stupid overpay by like Brooklyn, or there's like a real kind of juicy sign and trade opportunity for Memphis. I'd have to imagine Santi Aldama's back. Every team in the league, especially if you're a contender, should be, you know, at least kicking the tires on this for a potential sign and trade possibility, because I think he's a very valuable player. I think he's a very good player. I think he's a great rotation piece for anybody, especially any contending team. And I think Memphis will want to bring him back. Again, unless the offer is just, unless some team just gives him a poison pill contract or just a stupid fucking contract, or somebody's offering a mother load. And I say mother load, like it probably doesn't cost that much, but unless somebody's offering something of real significance in a sign and trade, I bet he's back in Memphis. Giddey is staying in Chicago. Have they already done a deal? I have Tyus Jones going to the Magic. You know, he bet on himself going to Phoenix, a place where he could start and try and be competitive. The minimum deal last year, and a hope to build up that value and get a bigger deal is probably going to be the minimum again. God, the Phoenix, the pathetic Suns, they were such a disaster. And, you know, this Orlando team, they need a point guard still. They need one that's cheaper. Tyus Jones has played with Desmond Bane. And also, Orlando sort of has the infrastructure to make up for any defensive lapses that Tyus Jones might have, because he will have some, because he's horrible defensively. So I have him going there. But I think his market will be pretty robust, especially if it's around the minimum. And hell, he might even go back to Phoenix. I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I have Russ going back to Denver. You know, again, I'm not sure what his market would be. There hasn't been a lot of reporting. I think some teams would probably kick the tires, but he was good there. I know it's frustrating, but I do like him and Jokic together. It is pretty interesting. Bruce Brown going back to Denver. Brucey. This kind of feels like this has already almost happened, right? Like if this is one of those things, like this is the first deal that gets reported, would we be that surprised? Probably not. And I'm not sure what it is. Is Bruce Brown a vet men guy? Are we like at that point with Bruce Brown? Or are we still like taxpayer mid-level? He's not a mid-level guy anymore. Taxpayer mid-level? Or is Bruce Brown a minimum guy? I don't know. This is a big one for Denver, right? This is like one of their only tools to improve their roster. They need to hit on this one. And I'm not sure Bruce Brown's a hit unless he just, hey, I'm back with Jokic. Let's lock the fuck back in, because he has not looked good since he's left Denver. I don't know. I've seen them tied to Luke Cornet, which would be great. That'd be awesome. Like one of these bigs to play alongside Jokic or play backup Jokic. But again, I just don't think you're going to pry Luke Cornet away from Boston for $5 million. Like it's just going to have to be more than that. So we'll see. This is the one that makes the most sense. And I do think there's a good amount of teams that will be at least calling about Bruce Brown, assuming it's around $5 million. I have Ty Jerome going to the Clippers. So I've got the Clippers being a little bit active. They do have access to their mid-level. The full mid-level, I believe. I could be wrong on that. Somebody check me if I'm wrong. And I feel like that's about what Ty Jerome would go for. And I would like this, especially in my scenario where I'm assuming they probably have to trade like a Bogey or something, one of their guards, and a John Collins deal just to make it work contractually. You bring in Ty Jerome to sort of plug and play. Now, I did have Chris Paul going as well, so there's kind of a logjam now in the backcourt. But, whatever. I think this makes some sense to me. There's a lot of teams that are reportedly interested in Ty Jerome. The Jazz are now a team that have become... I originally did have the Jazz, actually, believe it or not, especially right after the Colin Sexton trade. I put the Utah Jazz. I thought about it a little bit more and was like, maybe they did the Colin Sexton trade in an effort to open up more time for their guards that they already have a glut of. Like, let's not bring in another guy who's going to want the ball in his hands. Let's get rid of the guys who want balls in their hands that are over the age of 24 years old. The Magic, I think, will be a team, which would be hilarious considering their beef the beef he had with Paolo. But the Magic will be a team. I mean, a team like Dallas, but Dallas doesn't have the means to do it really. I ended up going with the Clippers because I think they'd be interested in a guy like Ty Jerome, 100%. Day'Ron Sharpe. The Nets did not tender his contract, which means he's not a restricted free agent, which is interesting. Now, with that being said, I have to imagine he's back. I think Brooklyn does really like him. Fantastic offensive rebounder. Not a little undersized, but can space the floor a little bit. Like, I think Brooklyn would love to have him back. But my ears perked up a little bit at this. And plus, there's also some Lakers people that are, I think, kind of insinuating or kind of like, oh, hey, by the way, Jabari Smith, 5 years, $122 million. This just happened as I was recording this. So there you go. Damn, they paid him. That's actually a pretty good deal. Under $30 million a year, they paid him. He was never going to get traded for KD then. So anyways, I think Day'Ron Sharpe is an interesting player, and I think in this scenario that we've laid out, if Dorian Finney-Smith does walk, the Lakers will have access to their mid-level exception, and I think in this scenario they break it up. Because I don't know. I don't think Day'Ron Sharpe's going for that much, but I do think it'd be a nice fit, and there's been some Lakers people who have sort of hinted at this, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and Jake LaRavia as well. Another one is wink, wink, nudge, nudges. This could happen. So this would be the Lakers offseason. What would you guys give it? LeBron might leave. Which, by the way, if LeBron were to be in a trade and it were to be like Cleveland or something and Cleveland were to do it, the Lakers could make out like fucking bandits there. Like, we could look back on it and be like, damn, the Lakers kind of look way better. Like, it is possible. But if in this scenario, let's just say LeBron stays and Dorian leaves, and it's it's J-Ron Sharp. It's Day'Ron Sharp and Jake LaRavia. How would we feel? Laker Kingdom, how do we feel? I have Yabusele going to the Spurs. I have no clue what the fuck to make of his market. It does sound like he's leaving the Sixers. He was productive with them. I'm just a little confused because I saw like a tweet today. It was like, Yabusele, staying in the NBA or going to Europe? And I'm like, what? Is that even really a possibility? Is his market not that robust? I thought it would be. I thought teams would be lining up to give him the mid-level, honestly. But the Spurs make sense. There's a French connection and all of that. And it does fit an area of need for them. I think they could do Brook and him, which I would like for them. But there's been a ton of smoke about this, so I'll just believe it. I'll follow it. D'Lo, look, let's just cut the shit. D'Lo is going to sign with the Mavericks about 5 minutes into free agency unless something crazy happens. Unless something unforeseen happens, or unless a player the Mavericks did not fully expect to be available does become available. It does sound like D'Lo will be on the Mavs. I just want to point this out. Like, the on-off numbers for him are shocking to me. You know, he's been a positive for the majority of the last 6 or 7 years of his career, which, you know, I don't really know what to take from it. I'm not disillusioned by what the Mavericks would be getting with D'Angelo Russell. Make no mistake about it. But at $5 million, I really feel like you could do worse, honestly. And I think it's not a bad get at all at $5 million. I think Quentin Grimes stays in Philly. Now, some of the reporting on this is getting crazy. Like, it did kind of sound like $16 million was the price tag, but then there was a follow-up report to this that Grimes was wanting a contract that averages $25 million per season. I just cannot imagine he gets that by anybody. 16 sounds a little bit more reasonable. It's a big reason why Yabusele is reportedly gone, so they can afford to bring back Quentin Grimes. Now, I just want to touch on this from a Mavericks perspective really quickly here. I promise you we're getting close to being done. I just want to touch on this really quickly from a Mavericks perspective. So the reason why you don't hear me crying about this trade ever, the reason why you don't hear me, dude, fuck this trade, like you hear some people, is simply due to the fact that, like, one, the moment Quentin Grimes turned down the contract extension the Mavs offered before the season started, which was around $8 million a year, I believe, which a smart decision by him, 100%. That was it. He was getting traded 100% no matter what was happening. All right. The Mavericks were never going to entertain paying him $16 million a season, ever, under any circumstances. Right. So the trade was going to happen. And, you know, I didn't hate the process of the trade, really, to be honest with you. Now, do I wish the Mavs got second round picks in the trade? Absolutely. I do wish that. But I understood the logic behind the trade 110%. It made absolute sense to me. And I'm not going to sit here and cry about the trade in hindsight or anything like that, because Quentin Grimes was fucking awesome with the Sixers afterwards. I knew Quentin Grimes was awesome. But I'm not going to cry about it, because if Quentin Grimes is on the Mavericks, guess what their position is right now? They win too many games. They don't get the number one overall pick, and they're probably stuck paying Quentin Grimes either $16 million, $20 million, or letting him walk, and things are bleak. Bleaker than they already are for some. So, yeah, that's why you won't hear me crying about this trade ever, because it's just, yeah, I get it. It was a dumbass move by the front office. Yeah, the front office fucking is stupid, all right? I already know that, okay? But because of their stupidity, we have lined up getting Cooper Flagg, and I'm happy about that. So, Quentin Grimes, thank you for your sacrifice, brother. I think Gary Trent Jr. goes back to Milwaukee. That just seems clear and obvious, like that's going to happen. $7, $8, $9 million a year, something like that. Good fit right there. I like it. He was really good for them last year. Kings, I think, are just going to stay the Kings. Now, I think there should be a teardown and fire sale. And it wouldn't surprise me. I think I said earlier, like, what is the biggest player to be traded? That, like, the biggest, name that could still be traded? That wouldn't surprise me that much. It would be Sabonis, but I just don't know if teams are lining up to get in the Sabonis business. I would have said Portland, but after them drafting another center, I doubt it. It would be hilarious if Chicago were to do it. Their names have been tossed around quite a bit, but again, I just can't imagine a Sabonis trade market being super robust. DeMar to like Miami's had some grounds. Like, I can't imagine a DeMar trade market being robust. I cannot imagine a Zach LaVine trade market being robust. Malik Monk is a different story entirely. You know, a team like Orlando, I would love that. I wanted that to happen when he was a free agent. That would be great. I mean, Malik Monk in Dallas sounds great, but the contracts get wonky. But I just don't know. It's just, they're an interesting spot. And the same thing with the Bulls. You know, they've already made trades. We've seen them trade away Lonzo for Isaac Okoro. Like, yeah, Vucevic, sure, right? Expiring $20 million. There are probably teams that would do that. But that seems like that could be an end of July, August type of trade when teams are like, all right, fuck it, we're desperate. Let's go get Vucevic. Kobe White, There are reports that they're still kind of shopping him. I'm not entirely sure. The market for these guards is really weird. We've seen that. Iodon Sumu, I have no clue what his market would be at all. I'm just going to assume they probably keep it like this. We'll see. Again, I'll be live for the start of free agency tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning into this Yap Sesh. I know it was a little bit longer, but I love looking back on these. These are so fun to me to look at my dumbass predictions. I love you guys. Okay.